We just had too much fun. Okay, we are now being streamed live. Fabulous. Okay, I'm just going to give it a moment or two so that people can find it, make their way to it. And I'm going to like triple check that it actually is there. Not that I don't trust Facebook, but
technology is as it is. Like, I've been doing an Instagram series and like the fun of technology has been.
We are live. My dog is barking.
oh, puppy.
Sorry.
Your puppy wants to be part of the event.
You know we're live because the dog is freaking out. Sorry.
He wants to be on camera.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we are good to go. So I'm gonna get us all started. Welcome everyone who's watching now and watching later when you watch this recorded. This is the Escondido Public Library's virtual author chat series. Today's chat is in partnership with Mysterious Galaxy, where you can order books by our wonderful authors. I believe, Stacey, yours are super fancy, having the signed book plate. And Jacqueline, do you want people to just like email you?
They can. I've been in contact with the bookstore. I'm just waiting for them to get back to me. But yeah, I have books as well. So
they're pretty good at that. So no matter what, you will enjoy purchasing these books and experiencing them and reading them. So you should definitely visit Mysterious Galaxy or your local bookseller and get yourself a copy. So I'm your host, Jessica Buck. I'm a librarian at Escondido Public Library. And today I am joined by these wonderful authors, Jacquelyn Middleton and Stacey Agdern. Yay! And we're all festive because this is a holiday or romance chat. So we're getting in the spirit of all things holiday season. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for everyone watching. For those that are watching while we're live, if you have any questions for the authors, just put those into the Facebook comments and we'll get to them as they come up. So really quickly, let's just start with, how are you two? I know we talked a little bit before we went live, but how are you doing? How's your day? I love your hats.
I know that the hats are kind of, the hats are it. That's just the best thing ever.
They tie everything together. It's kind of awesome.
Yes.
I love Stacey's.
I know, it's so
you know
great.
what? It's like one of the things about Hanukkah that I love so much is that this idea of like putting your menorah in the window, sort of standing up and saying, I'm Jewish, I'm proud to celebrate the holiday. I mean, it's not, it's not the reason for it, but that's kind of what it's come into. And it's what I take away from it. And so slightly wild in its own way, you're literally wearing this menorah on your head as a symbol of high, and the thing is, like, in this time of year, like, there are so many holidays, so many different customs being celebrated. And I mean, tonight is the 6th night of Hanukkah. We just lit the 6th candle on the menorahs. A couple, here not long ago, people are probably starting to light now, and it's also Shabbos, so people are lighting Shabbos candles. So like, it's, we're lighting a lot of candles and doing a lot of traditions tonight. But like, one of the things about that allows people to, to sort of like make sure that people see them in public, people see that they're Jewish, and like, it's kind of a wonderful thing, the sort of the season of light and miracles, as it were. All of these holidays that are celebrated now, like, their common features are are both light and miracles, each of them, and it's just a really cool thing. So
Sorry about my dog freaking out.
It's okay.
Yeah,
we love the animals. Yeah, we have some questions for the dog. So for those that maybe haven't read your books yet, don't know anything about you, they're just joining us for the first time, tell us a little bit about yourselves and your journey to becoming a writer. I know I think both of you have answered this before, but we're starting fresh. So who wants to go first? Maybe Jacqueline?
Sure. My name is Jacqueline Middleton. I am an author based in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I've been writing romance and contemporary fiction since about 2016. And Certainty of Chance is my latest book. It's a Christmas story that's set in London during the week before Christmas. And the main character, Madeline, is an American woman trying to get to Paris to spend the holidays with her sister. But there is a volcano in Iceland that erupts, and the ash closes British airspace, actually all European airspace, which actually happened. It happened back in 2010, and I think it happened in 2011 as well. So she's stuck in London, and she's not happy about it. She's not feeling Christmassy at all. The anniversary of her best friend passing away is coming up, and she just wants to get out of London. She wants to get to see her sister, but she gets stuck in a cab with a British cabbie who loves Christmas and won't shut up about it. And they kind of get stuck together in the run up to the holidays. So yeah, it's a lovely, heartfelt romance. It talks about grief, especially disenfranchised grief, which is grief that you don't feel like you can express in public, or you're just led to believe people don't understand it. So it's a heartfelt story. It's uplifting. It has a happy ever after, and it's at Christmas time in London. It's sparkly and beautiful and wonderful.
Thank you. And Stacey.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. I'm so happy to be here. My name is Stacey Agdern. I live in New York. I'm a native New Yorker. I live in Westchester County, not very far from New York City by train. My latest book is my first book is Miracles and Menorahs. The book I'm here to talk about tonight, despite the menorah on my head and my ears and my sweater, is Love and Latkes, which came out in October from Thule Publishing. It is the story of a small town latke competition, but it's also the story of the complicated relationships we have with our hometowns. It's also the story of people who leave home and people who stay. It's also the story of when towns are in trouble, what happens, finding the helpers in difficult situations and what those helpers do. And also it's the story of what happens when you leave your hometown after mistakenly believing that a graduation party is the perfect venue to express your unrequited crush for the past 4 years, only to find out it is in fact unrequited. And what happens when you come back. The story begins, I would say, about a month and a half before the first night of Hanukkah and the first night of this competition. It's a lovely story. It's also the story. It's also my love letter to Jewish food culture and Jewish food and the different ways that we make Jewish food and where it comes from and the plight of the Jewish deli. So it's a whole bunch of different things tied into a lovely romance with definitely happy for now and for sure signs that an HEA is possible. So
I love it. I love the holiday romance because you have like the challenges with what comes with the holiday season and then the joy and the light and the happiness. So before we get into the books and the writing, just to kind of get us started off in like the joys of the season with our hats, what is your favorite part of this holiday season? Is it the weather? Is it the food? Stacey, you just mentioned that. Is it just being able to, I don't know, dress joyfully whenever you want because it's okay to have bells on your head? Like, what is it about it that you just love? I don't know who wants to go first.
I think there's so many great things. I mean, Stacey hit on food, and food is such a major thing. I'm actually wearing food on my head. This is Christmas pudding, British Christmas pudding hat. But I hate to say it, I don't really like British Christmas puddings. They taste pretty awful. But I like the hat. and the hat makes an appearance in my story. But I think for me, I love being able to get together with my family and friends, because so much of the year you're busy, and it's nice to be able to take that time to slow down and actually really be thankful. I know this sounds kind of like a Thanksgiving thing, but our Thanksgiving's in October here in Canada. It's not in November, but it's nice to get together with everybody and just catch up and watch great movies. And the music, I love all the Christmas music, the Christmas carols. I will start playing them months before. I'm that person. I don't really get tired of them. So yeah, I'd say the food, family, getting together with your family and friends, and the music and the movies.
Everything.
Yeah, everything,
I mean,
right?
that's,
It's just
that's,
basically
that's
everything.
my answer is just everything. I love it all. Like, give me all the Hanukkah songs. Like, there was actually an article on Alma in the last couple, in a magazine newsletter called Hey Alma in the last couple of days, talking about like how people, they don't, some people don't want a mainstream Hanukkah song. I want all of them. I want like, I want the parody songs from the a cappella groups. I want the Jewish bluegrass groups, recovering and rediscovering Woody Guthrie songs. I want, different versions of like traditional Hanukkah songs. I want, Haim's new version of the Adam Sandler song. I love like the different like aspects of things. Give me like techno fun. Like I think Cobra Starship just had a Hanukkah song released today. Like give me all of it, but also like I think one of the things I love the most is that the feeling for the holiday, right? Like one of my brother's older traditions, he hasn't done this in years, but I was thinking about this. I think about this every time I think about like my favorite parts of the holidays. And what you were saying, Jacqueline, about how busy we are and how hard it is to like organize ourselves and get together with family and friends. Like this tradition of my brother's was like, we'd go through the year and then all of a sudden in the middle of like January, we'd be like, I'd get an email from my brother. Hey, guess what? You thought we forgot. We did not. Latkapalooza is in March. And you're like, what? But literally, that's the reason why my brother and sister-in-law used to hold their Hanukkah party in like March, because, it allowed everybody to kind of relax and be together. And like my brother would stand at the stove making latkes just the same as if he would have been doing it in December. Like, the music would play. My brother prefers jazz and more traditional stuff, but like it's still Hanukkah music. It's still family. It's still those things. It's just later. Yeah. But also like like going back to food, one of the things I love about Hanukkah food, and generally speaking, like most holiday food, is how easy it is to share with people. Like, don't want to go into it now because I have a sneaking suspicion I will talk about this later, but like I have very close friends and we've been sharing different holiday traditions for years. And like, there's a moment in Love and Latkes that happens because of a visit to this particular friend's house where we made latkes out of a different root vegetable than potatoes, because we were having fun and like thinking about what we could do. And she just like, how about? And I was like, yes, please. So
how were they?
They were fantastic.
Were they?
absolutely fantastic. Yes. I just love how joyful it is making just like the traditional, not just like your family, like the food that you make every year. It's like going back, finding like my grandmother's recipes for things and then making it. It's just like it brings up all the memories. Oh, I just love it.
It really does. It's amazing how food just clicks into those moments and it just takes you right back there. That's wonderful.
I'm just checking Facebook really quick. I don't see any questions yet, but those that have just joined us have questions, put them in the comments. We'll get to them. Okay, so you've talked a little bit about, like Stacey, especially you, about Hanukkah and traditions. So how has your identity and your experiences kind of helped shape the stories that you write? I don't know who wants to go first. I feel like Steve.
First this time. So I was about 26 years old. I was about 26 years old. Was it 26? I don't remember exactly how old I was. It was in 2006 though. In 2006, the book was Deirdre Martin's Chasing Stanley. And like, I literally lost my mind. And the reason I lost my mind is because it was one of the first Jewish heroines that I'd read. And I was either in my middle 20s or like early 30s by the time that happened. So like, picture Stacey at that age reading having read romance novels for like, I would say 10 years before that, because I didn't start until college. I was a late romance bloomer. So that was a 10-year like wait for me to see someone who worshiped like I did, who celebrated holidays like I did on the pages of a romance novel. The way my experience shaped me is that I write Jewish characters and stories that are culturally Jewish because I want to be a part of the group, making sure that no one else has to wait 10 years to see themselves. You know, it's, again, you know, going back to like one of the things I take away from Hanukkah, it's the thing, like one of the things that I think about when you contrast like Hanukkah stories and Christmas stories is that Hanukkah doesn't have the religious import that Christmas does in a Jewish religious calendar. It is, as a result, like, you know, it is a religious holiday, but like it's not, you know, it's not the holiest day of the year. That honor belongs to the high holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in October and September, depending on when they fall out during the year. But as a result, Hanukkah, at least for American Jews, at least for North American Jews, Hanukkah has become a holiday of identity, more of a cultural holiday. Again, a holiday where you stand up and by wearing a menorah on your head or somewhere on your person, where you say, I celebrate Hanukkah, even in a time where even saying happy holidays is hard. So writing Hanukkah stories, like, you know, 2015 was the first time I did it, but like, you know, it clearly, like, I clearly come back to Hanukkah when I need something sort of that's close to my heart. Because I waited 15 years. I waited till I was 25 for the first Jewish character in a romance novel that I read. Jewish heroine, I should say, in a romance novel that I read.
That's a long time to wait, you know. It's just, but that's why it's so great you're writing the stories that you are now, because there are so many writers and readers that are going to be, you know, won't know any different. They'll think these books have always been here because people like you are actually, you know, you're telling your stories and you're putting them out there, which is amazing.
It's wonderful. Like I one of the things that I've seen, like I'm a very lucky person, and not like there's this amazing group of writers who are also writing Jewish stories as well, and like watching the group get bigger and bigger and bigger, like in like from 2015, like in the 6 years, you know, is kind of amazing. So
It's about time. I know with my stories, what's been really important for me, and it started with my first book, is I always wanted to make sure that I could portray mental health issues in my stories. I've grown up with anxiety and having panic attacks, and as it turns out, depression. I didn't know at the time that's what it was, but I've been since told, yep, that's what it was. So when I wrote my first book, London Belongs to Me, the main character, Alex, she has anxiety and panic attacks. And at the time, I mean, obviously I was writing it from my own personal experience, my own sort of own voices experience, but I wasn't really prepared to talk about it. Like when I would do interviews or anything or mention it to readers, I kind of was still in that personal vacuum where I didn't feel comfortable admitting it to people that I had these issues, which I mean, I've had since I was a little kid. So, but when I was writing it, I kind of got to the point where I thought, you know, I can't really be authentic when I'm talking to people about her as a character without acknowledging that side of myself. So it gave me the opportunity to kind of be public about my own mental health challenges. And I found that to be so liberating. At first, I thought it would be embarrassing and I wouldn't want to go there. And I would be exposing a part of myself that I have hidden from almost everybody except for my family members. But it actually was the opposite. And I had I had readers coming to me saying, it's so nice to see this. And I feel like I've been seen and I feel like I can talk about it and I'm not going to be ashamed about it anymore. Which was the best thing, other than me feeling, I can actually be myself now and I can be real with people and explain why I might, not want to do something or had to leave early or that kind of thing. So since then, all my stories, I mean, I've written 5 so far, have some aspect of mental health in there, to different varying degrees and different ways. And I find for me, it's really important to be able to portray it authentically and realistically and empathetically, because, I have seen it in some stories where it's just kind of written down almost like blue eyes, blonde hair, she's short. But to me, it's not a character trait. Like, it's so much more than that. And I want to be one of those people that can portray it properly. So it's nice to see, more and more people are writing about mental health. And I know I'm not the first. There were people before me. It just perhaps was in the books that I was picking up. I didn't really see a mental health depiction that felt like what I was experiencing. So that's what's most important to me right now, is to be able to sort of go there and shed some light and let people feel like they're not alone.
See, that's I think when I'm like books like yours, that's what they do. They give readers who need to see that aspect of themselves a safe space. Even like, I'm sure you've had stories of people who were like, this is what I've been feeling. I didn't understand it. Now I do. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Or thank you so much for like making me feel like I'm not alone. And I think that's so like what you're doing is so important.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the one book of mine, my third one, Until the Last Star Fades, it's the main character has smiling depression, which is actually the type that I have. And it's where, on the outside, everyone thinks everything's great because they're happy and nothing seems wrong, but it's actually kind of a mask that you put on when you're out and about, so nobody will notice, that's not quite the case. And I had readers going, I didn't know there was a name for that.
Yeah.
And, they looked it up and read a bit more about it. So yeah, it's been great. It's been great. And it's just, even if I help one person or one person feels that they see themselves, that's great. That's what I want to do. So.
I love listening to both of you talk about your books and your writing. It's just, there's so many readers that are going to benefit from your stories and already have. And it's just, I'm so happy that you guys are here together with me. It's so wonderful. I'm like, don't get teary, don't get teary, don't get teary.
No, I've been fighting back tears for a while.
I'm like, I have to mute myself because you'll just hear me sniffling.
If we all cry, it's okay. We'll all be doing it.
We'll all cry together.
Ensemble.
This was a great chat. They made us cry. So let's change direction a little bit. So which of your characters has been your favorite so far to write? And which one's been the most like challenging?
Go for it, Stacey.
So Mr. Challenging actually shows up in Love and Latkes, but his book was History of Us. And that's the main male character of that book. His name is Jacob. He was really hard to balance. He was really hard to write. And then after his book, he is the worst scene stealer on the planet. Like, I love him to pieces, but like, my God. I think partially because I was worried about that book when I was writing Love and Latkes. So like he shows up, the choice that I made in Love and Latkes was not to have the parents or the grandparents really in the story. And as a result of that, I gave space for the couples from the previous books to sort of come in and take a role. And of course, when you have a character like Jacob, who is a scene stealer, who just is larger than life on the page, there was a scene I had to write about 7 times to get the balance right, because it's not Jacob's scene, it's my hero of Love and Latkes is scene. So like there were 3 people in the scene, 2 of them were yelling at each other, and the third one basically eventually I had to make him throw up his hands and go, stop. And so eventually getting him to that point was like, come on, like you gotta like do this. But aside from that, I loved writing Bati and Abe. They were so easy to write. Their banter was fantastic. After like such heavy books in both, miracles and history, the banter in Love and Latkes, even though their relationship was this fraught in every other way you could possibly think of, Batia and Abe had banter like nobody's business, and that was so much fun. Because that didn't happen for my other 2 in this series.
It's funny though how certain characters just want to take over.
Yeah.
You're like, you can't, you have to, this is this person's story.
Exactly. Like, this is not yours. Like, you were helping them, which is fine, but you need to sit down because this is not your scene, no matter whose car we're in or like who's, So.
That's fun though. That's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to pick a favorite character. I like so many of mine. I think often it's the most recent book for me is my favorite characters and the most fun to write, because I'm so in that world. I'm still in that world, and I still kind of I'm living through them. And every time I hear a song that's on the playlist, it puts me
God, you
in
play
that
this
story. Yeah. So I mean, right now I would probably still say Madeline and Julian from The Certainty of Chance, because they're very much top of mind, and it's Christmas, so it's really making me feel the story. I started writing it in November last year. I was really disappointed because we couldn't travel, obviously, and I love going to for Christmas in London or before Christmas, and we couldn't. So it was one of the ways I could sort of feel like I was there. But obviously I've been writing it when it wasn't Christmas. So now that it is Christmas and the story is done, I'm really feeling like I can relate to them. And even though I'm in Toronto and not London, but yeah. And as for difficulty, they were pretty easy for me to write. I was really in the groove and on their wavelength, and it was quite easy. And I have had other books. I mean, actually what I'm writing now is proving to be a bit difficult. I'm really trying to get into it. I'm kind of struggling a little bit with it, but I find that happens a lot with books in the beginning. And then as I go, I don't know, Stacey, if you have this thing, and then you kind of, your character's better and better and better. And then it just seems a lot easier to get to the end.
I think every book is different for me. Like, it, like love, I wrote 3 drafts before I turned it in of history. I think I may have written like 2 of Love and Latkes. But I was, involved in like, I had my Zoom sprints with both history and Love and Latkes. Like I was writing to deadline with both of those books. So like,
yeah.
I had to write the 2,000 words a day, 5 days a week, which is why the playlist was so important. Like diving into my playlist, trying to like, see the sequences in my head with the music playing. Like with history, I was writing it in May of 2020. So like, needless to say, we knew, like, I was not going anywhere. I'd expected to go to Long Island. It was not happening. To visit friends and like see all the scenes and stuff in history, but it was not happening. So thankfully Google Maps and Google Views and Memories and Pictures exist. Love and Latkes was easier because, without mentioning the specifics, because again, like I did with the town was a little bit of a lot. So putting it this way, like the town that I wrote it, that I based the real town that I based the town in Love and Latkes on is much closer to where I live than the town in history. So like going there, you know, in July, August, September, when I was writing Love and Latkes was not hard. But comparing the two books, like I didn't do a chair dance for Love and Latkes. I did one for history though. Every single time I finished a draft of that book, I did a chair dance to a song. Which is, if anybody is curious, because I'm talking about this. This is Taylor Swift's Paper Rings.
I love me some T Swift.
When I talked about Love and Latkes semi-regularly to people, I joked that it was basically "'Tis the Damn Season" plus Hanukkah as Love and Latkes. It's a very apt description of Love and Latkes.
I love it. So what did you enjoy the most about writing your recent books? And you can talk about either like one you're writing right now or the one that we're talking about during this chat. So you choose.
I think for me, with the certainty of chance, it was seeing all the Christmassy parts of London, because I was missing it so much. I go to London a lot. I'm married to a British fellow who his family just lives outside of London. But even before I was with him, I would go over. That's where I always go for holidays. So I know London really well. And I've been there in December when the Christmas lights are up quite a few times. So I was so missing it last year because not being able to travel. So for me, writing it and being really in depth and descriptive was my favorite part. I got to add in some things that I've done in my own life. There's an afternoon tea that's really quite special in the story that I've been to, and there's a really unique charity concert that is in the book that I've also been to, and it was really special to be able to relive those experiences because it also brought back all my own memories of who I was with and what was happening at the time. So it was just really nice because at a time when you're stuck at home and you really, you can't see your loved ones and you can't see your friends, let alone travel, it was a good way to go about it and stay safe at the same time. So it was fun. And I always wanted to write a holiday book. So just the idea of being able to do that was, I think, really good for me. And it kind of got it out of my system. It's one of the things on my checklist was like, do a holiday book, but there's always other things to write and other characters you want to feature. So it kind of just kept getting pushed aside. So that was my favorite part of writing Certainty of Chance.
I love you said fellow. Fellow. So cute.
It was like guy, bloke. Yeah, bloke sounds weird coming from a Canadian.
So Love and Latkes is the third and final for now book in a series for me. It started with my debut single title and it finishes with my first single title series finisher. And I've listened to songs like Kelsey Ballerini's Legends and Avril Lavigne's, oh God, the song from that soundtrack, I forget that song, but like, you know, Keep Holding On. And I've wanted to use those songs on playlists because what they signify is a gathering of the friends at the end of the book. You know, the end of the last book with like, you know, helping that third person get through. Cause like, you know, I've been reading romance for years and I know how the pattern goes. And like everybody comes back to help the third characters find their relationship. And I've never done that. I've never had the chance to do that. I did in Latkes. And I loved like giving Batya, who was the heroine of Love and Latkes, the benefit of her friend's experience and advice. I loved having those moments in the book where like she was faced with the lessons that her friends had hard learned in books 1 and 2. You know, like there's a conversation that Batya and Anna, who is the History of Us heroine, have in a diner towards the end of the book. And like Anna tells her the exact thing that she needed to learn before she and Jacob got their HEA in book 2. The idea of, you know, our past history is past history. You cannot let it influence your current relationship. It can be inside jokes from now till the cows come home, but once it becomes, you know, your current story, like forget it, you're going to keep repeating the patterns. And I was like, of course Anna's going to tell her that. Like, I don't have to invent another person to tell her because she's got the perfect one. You know, and like, who's the one who's going to tell her, like, the town is fine, don't worry about it, like they're gonna love you anyway. But you know, but the heroine of book 1, you know, Miracles and Menorahs, like, and so having those friends together, like, was a moment that I loved writing, was like a moment that I was thrilled about writing, and like having, and like the fact that like Abe did not show up in the earlier books was another reason why I could do that, because Abe was the entry point into the series for the new reader. So I could have both things at the same time, which I was absolutely in
I
love with.
love it. It's like this, I could just like say how much I love it just like all day. Like I just love it so much. I'll just keep loving it. Okay, I'm just gonna check Facebook really quick just to make sure I don't miss anyone. Okay, perfect. I can see people watching, but no one's made comments. But thank you for those watching now, and thank you for those who watch later. We're happy that you're with us in some time and space. We're all together. So what do you hope readers take away from your story? And I think both of you have kind of touched on that throughout different questions, but altogether, what do you hope readers take away? Do you want to start, Jacqueline? Since
Sure. I really hope that people take away several things. Just that, well, first of all, London is beautiful at Christmas time. You should all go. So that would be great if it makes people want to travel over there, because it is very special. It's a very special time over there. I'm also hoping that people may look at grief a little bit differently, because Madeline's journey, and actually Julian's too, I think that was really important to me, to portray grief in a way that was accessible, but also made people think, because, you know, society as a whole kind of has a problem talking about death and grieving, and everybody's like, you know, you got to get over it quickly, and there's stages and all this kind of thing. And I think my story kind of debunks a lot of that. And I hope people will come away not only being, you know, swept away with this lovely, beautiful, serendipitous love story, but also, you know, maybe look at how, you know, we need to talk about, you know, when we lose someone and what happens after, and how, you know, you don't get over it. You end up carrying that grief with you forever, it doesn't go away. It's not something you get over. And I just think if it makes people talk about it and bring it out into the open and, sort of normalize it, because people are scared more than anything, I think, to talk about it. They're afraid of offending the person who's lost somebody. They're afraid of doing the wrong thing. And I just think people need to sort of realize, we're all going to go through it. We're all going to experience it at some point. And there are ways to be there for somebody, and you shouldn't be scared of it. So I hope it might open some dialogue on that score.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I think it's just this time of year. I feel like it's like the perfect time to be thinking about that, because you're surrounded by everyone wanting to come together and all of that support. So
Yeah,
I think it's a perfect mix.
Yeah, I just think, and the holidays aren't always joyful for everybody. I mean, there's always an aspect of melancholy, I think, for a lot of people, because you remember all the people that you no longer have at your table anymore and who aren't there with you anymore. And it is a happy time, but there's two sides of it, and that's what my story portrays. There's the very joyful, fun, frivolous, crazy stuff that goes on in the story, but there's also a lot of heartfelt, like remembering and being melancholy about what you've lost and what you no longer have. And I think that's a realistic way to portray the holidays.
And Stacey, what do you hope readers take away from your story?
Aside from the fact that, first of all, it's a Hanukkah story, and Hanukkah is a wonderful holiday that should be remembered and celebrated. Number two, but also like the book talks about a lot of different things, but like, and I feel weird, and like the book talks a lot about a lot of different things, but I kind of want to focus on the whole conversation about Jewish food. That we talk about food and we talk about, like, oh wow, this book's making me hungry. But the bottom line is that the conversation, like in this book about Jewish food, like Jewish food is not a punchline. It is not a, oh my God, it's so flat and not spicy. No, so many different cultures and and people have so many different traditions of how they spice food and what they put in it and what they do with it and why. And like, the culture of the deli and the culture of the Jewish bagel shop are so important. Like, I think it was America's Test Kitchen that had a podcast recently about like the struggles of the American Jewish deli. Like, we're losing vital elements of culture and like in the United States. And I think like it's important to remember where, it's wonderful that like everybody is eating all of this food, but it's also important to remember where it came from and what things are being lost in the process. And like Abe and his ambition doesn't just want to build a restaurant. He wants to build a community space, because when you talk about culturally specific restaurants, they are not only places to eat, but also places to share with a community and places to share a community. The traditions that show up in food. And there are so many different chefs who are doing amazing things, and their work deserves to be celebrated. And Jewish food shouldn't be your punchline. As you like eat your, as you argue over latke toppings, or like, debate as to which is your favorite Hanukkah food, remember that these foods all have tradition. Remember that like Jewish culture is the culture of diaspora, and remember that like these foods come from so many different places, and they're all amazingly different and wonderful and should be celebrated for what they are and for who they came from. And
now we're all hungry.
I love that we like
Where's the food?
started talking about food in the beginning, and now we're ending with talking about food. Should have been the holiday like romance and food chat.
You should have food too that you could somehow get through the screen, so you could.
I know. I wish. I wish. Okay, I'm checking Facebook again just to make sure. Okay, so we are at the end. That was so quick. Oh my gosh, that just went right by. So we're gonna get to our closing questions because we are literally at the end. So this is the question that we always ask at the end, and I think I've managed to ask both of you this now because we've had you both for chats before. So you can say the same memory or you can say a different one or whatever you want to say. So what is your favorite library memory this time? I don't know who wants to go first.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Because I was like, I thought about what I said the last time that I've had chats at the library, and I was like, oh right, yes, I didn't talk about this specifically. So my brother and I were very early readers, like really, really, really early readers. Like, and so my mom, my brother is 2 years younger than I am. And so once a week, we would go to the Warner Library and fill up with like a ton of like picture books, because my parents were told that early readers, it is good for early readers before like shoving them on, at least at the time, it's good at the time for early readers to read picture books, because picture books were meant to be, so like if early readers were reading picture books, they were reading things that were good for them before moving them on to like harder material. Anyway, but in fact, like the picture books were actually harder material because they were meant to be read by parents to kids. So anyway, I digress. That was the reasoning at the time, or at least what I can remember of it. Again, if it sounds ridiculous, blame me, not whoever transmitted this to me however many years ago this was. So anyway, we would get a ton, like literally like a ton of picture books between us. And we would have a stack for my brother and a stack for me. The problem was, by the time we drove from the library to the house, at most, I believe, like we probably read about 3/4 of our own piles. Like half to 3/4 of our own piles, because we were early readers who read fast and we got what we read. So like, imagine my poor mother putting her foot down and saying, no more reading in the car. But every week we'd go to the library and exchange the ridiculously sized stack for other ones until we got older and we would go more often. But when we were little, like it was once a week, like it was so. And I just remember like those car rides were like the best thing in the world. And like spending all of this time, like, you know, with my brother and my mother, and like running around like the children's room, where I talked about like the big baseball glove seat the last time. I think there was a dragon too, but it was amazing. So
I love that. I love that your mom had to be like, no more reading. These books need to last.
yeah, exactly. These books, you need to savor these. You can't like.
So she's like, more, give me more. I think my favorite memory was I when we were in public school, we got to help out in the library. We usually would do it early in the morning. If you got to school really, really early and it was cold out, they would let you in the library, but you could only come in if you helped like reshelve books and that kind of thing. So I did a lot of that because we always got dropped off at school really early. So we would help with the library and filing things and all that sort of stuff. And then we actually would do it even during recess sometimes. So that was kind of fun because when you love books, you just want to be around them and, you know, just doing anything. And as a kid, you got to see like almost everything that was in the library at school. So that was really fun. I enjoyed doing that.
Those are both adorable stories. I love it. I wish, you know, it's funny because when I was in elementary school and middle school, it's like I went to the library, but I didn't have the love for it that I have now, which I think is always funny because I ended up like living basically with how long I spend in it. I'm like practically living in the library.
Never too late.
Right? It's never too late. So if those of you that are watching aren't readers, here's your chance to start.
Books don't expire. Like I was actually talking to someone, like some Miracles came out in October of 2020. I released that book into, you know, who knows what was going to happen next. 1 year later, I'm seeing it all over Bookstagram. I'm seeing amazing aesthetics with this book on books with miracles, my miracle book, still being read. And then someone said to me, I'm so sorry, I just didn't realizing it existed. And I'm like, I'm a former bookseller. I'm a reader first. The fact that you found it made me happy. The fact that you're reading it makes me even happier. Like, books don't expire. Whenever you find them, whenever you fall in love with reading, it's there for you.
That's so true. As well. They look so pretty together.
I know, they're so beautiful. And I love that they're both like huddled.
And the snow too in both of them, like the way that they look together, like you can see the trees in both of them and the lights and the snow, and it's beautiful. Oh,
it's just so magical.
It's gorgeous. It's perfect.
Beautiful.
So my last question for you is, what's next for you? So tell our readers what they should expect, maybe what you're writing, what's coming out, maybe another event you're doing, where they can find you, all that fun information to impart.
Well, I'm working on my next book, which was the book I was originally writing last year and then dumped it to write the Christmas book. So I'm going back to that, and it's my 6th book, and it's going back to the Orkney Islands of Scotland, which appeared in Say Hello, Kiss Goodbye. And it's a second chance romance, small town, because small island. And it's 2 characters that have been in previous books in very small capacity, and it's their story, and it's going to be a beautiful sweeping tale, lots of love, lots of swooniness, and I can't wait for people to read it. I'm just trying to get into it now. I'm just trying to leave Christmas behind and get into the summer, because it takes place in the summer, which it's trying to make myself feel warm when it's so cold here, and that's what I am working on next, and I can't wait for everyone to read it.
So I just have to do a little tighter edit on it. But I just finished a story called What Happens at Comic-Con, which is a short that sits in between History of Us and Love and Latkes, based on a throwaway line from Love and Latkes, where a group of people were talking about a trip to New York Comic Con.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
2 years before. It is ridiculous. It is fun. And it's going to be the story that you get when you sign up for my newsletter through the MailChimp version. Right now, the story that you get is called Good Friends and Good Books. It takes place in between Miracles and Menorahs and History of Us, and is the story of the best Galentine's present ever, basically, for romance readers, especially historical romance readers. It's the most awesome thing. So there's that. Where to find me, literally, because tomorrow afternoon at 3:00 on my Instagram, I will be going live in the next episode of Let's Talk About Love and Latkes with Kelly Kane, the author of An Acquired Taste. I am so excited to talk to her, because Chef Buck, oh my God, yum, and like awesomeness. On Monday, I will be live at 4, I think, with Gwenda Bond, the author of Not a Hot Guy, and some other amazing things. And we have a really cool history that I want to talk about too. 4:00, Let's Talk About Love and Latkes on my Instagram, 4:00 Eastern. And then 8:00 Eastern, 6:00 Pacific, Alicia Grossman is moderating an awesome panel of myself, Katie Casey, and Jean Meltzer, and a dreidel of doom and a Hanukkah party hosted by the Rip Bodice. So it's going to be so much fun. They have the information for that. I'm just really, really excited. And then at some point soon, I will have more news. So.
Yay. Well, thank you so much. It's always, we love having you on our chats, both of you, because you're so much fun. We love talking with you. Love your books. And I hope that everyone will read them, go to Mysterious Galaxy and order them, go to their local bookseller, just go to the author's website. I don't care how you do it, but you should get these books because they are just wonderful and it's the perfect time to be reading them.
And I think at least 2 of mine are on Hoopla. I don't know if the 3rd one is on Hoopla yet, but at least 2 of them are. I know that Miracles and History of Book on Hoopla is one.
I'm tempted to check, but if they are, we'll just like put the link in the chat. There we go. We'll put the link to everything. Sorry. So I want to thank everyone who's watching now with us for watching. Those that watch this later, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Jacqueline and Stacey for spending time with me in the library to talk about your books and your experiences and sharing just all of you with us. Thank you so much. And thank you to Mysterious Galaxy for partnering with us and for helping promote this chat. We're so thankful that they are in business and that they are here supporting authors. And I think that's it. Oh, yes. So if you're watching now or later, we have a very short, only 3-question event survey. Please fill it out. Let us know if you enjoyed this chat and if you want to see more like it. And because we are past the end, and I want to let our authors who are in different time zones like get back to your night. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll say good night.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a pleasure, Jacqueline, for being in a chat with you. Like, I really enjoyed it. So
Thank you.